All right. So, friends, today we are going to continue with a lesson that we did last time. Can you guys remember which surah did we start last week?
Surah Al-Baqarah.
Good job. Surah Al-Baqarah is what we started last week. Okay. So, today we're going to continue with the Surah Al-Baqarah, and we're going to try to connect it with Surah Al-Fatiha, the first surah, because Quran, all of it is interlinked with each other. It's like a chain, and the previous surah connects with the next surah, and the previous verse connects with the next verse. So there's no kind of disproportionate anything in the middle of the Quran. It's like everything is interlinked with each other. So it's very important to understand how and why Surah Al-Baqarah was placed right after Surah Al-Fatiha, because that's kind of what made me very curious too. Like, why Surah Al-Baqarah right after Fatiha? Why not any other surah? Why not Surah An-Nas? Why is Surah An-Nas the last surah? So these are the questions we need to ask ourselves, because when we ask these questions with ourselves, then we kind of think and reflect upon those. And when we think, we research and we get our answers, because that's Allah's promise. The more we're going to research about something, Allah will give us the answers. And the answers are right there in the Quran as well. So today we're going to try to link all of it together. All right. For that, I am going to, my friend, share my screen, and hopefully it's going to work. All right. So everybody can see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So the last time we were talking about Suratul Fatiha, and if you remember, the last verse that we did was we were asking Allah for Ihdina Siratul Mustaqim. Do you guys remember this lesson?
Yeah.
And then we went into detail about what did ihdina meant. Okay. So when we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for ihdina sirat al-mustaqim, oh Allah, guide us to the straight path. This is what ihdina sirat al-mustaqim meant. So we asked Allah to guide us to the straight path. And what was that path? We asked Allah, sirat al-ladina an'amta alayhim. Oh Allah, show us the path and guide us towards the path of those you have favored, you have blessed upon them. Okay? So when we asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this dua, remember, when we ask Allah for something, Allah grants it. Allah gives it. So as a blessing upon us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened the entire Quran for us. You asked for guidance, here is the guidance. So Allah opened it with the chapter of Suratul Baqarah. Okay? And why the chapter of Suratul Baqarah? Because right in the beginning of Suratul Baqarah, Allah explains us in detail about the three categories of those people that we just in Surah Al-Fatiha, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that show us the path who you favored. And then we said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, not the path of those who earned your anger. And oh Allah, also do not show us the path of those who got misguided. Now we were at that time kind of confused about who are those people who earned Allah's anger, and who are those people who got misguided. And we are also kind of wondering who are those people who Allah blessed. So in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah explains these three categories of people. That is why Surah Al-Baqarah, according to my understanding, and you guys can do your own research and come up with your own answers, I would love that. that why Allah placed Surah Al-Baqarah right after Al-Fatiha. Because we asked for this and Allah opened it up for us. So when we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open up the entire Quran for us, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts with this very important thing.
Is it Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's birthday today?
Sorry, say that again.
Isn't it Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's birthday today?
Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes and no. So we do not exactly find, it's a little bit off the topic, but I will answer your question. So Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam exact date of birth is not given. Nowhere that we find in a narration or a hadith that the real birthday of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is given. They say it was either the 9th or the 12th of Rabiul Awwal, which is this month. Okay. And secondly, we find from a narration from a hadith that Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that I like to fast on Mondays. Because according to the narration, he said, because that was the day I was born. So Mondays is one of those days he liked to fast, and one of the reasons that he gave was because that was one of the days that I was born, so I like to fast on that day. So it's something that it kind of reminds us that when we kind of remember our birthdays or when we kind of celebrate our birthdays, what should we do? Maybe it's a good way of fasting, and maybe you can break your fast with a cake or whatever your family has prepared for you. But it's a good idea to fast on that day because fasting brings us more and more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And birthdays are a good reminder for us that we are proceeding closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the more we age, the more we are closer to our death. So the more we are proceeding towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Does this answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right, so when we began our topic, we asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we want guidance. Ihdina siratul mustaqim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened the entire Quran for us, beginning from Suratul Baqarah. But before beginning our search for guidance, there was one keynote that Allah wanted to make very, very clear. And that was that in our mind and in our heart, we have no kind of doubt towards this book. Because anything that starts with a doubt leads to more confusions. And that's a fact, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, before opening us the entire guidance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. ذَلِكَ, that. What does that mean? That book that is in your hands. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. That book that you're holding, that book that is in your hands. What's so special about it? What's so cool about this book? لا ريب فيه. لا, not, never. Raiba, any doubt, any kind of misunderstanding, any kind of confusion. Fihi, in it. So this is a book that has no doubt in it. You pick up a book from your house, or you pick up a book or a Quran from my house, or I pick up a Quran from Ines and Aya's house, or I pick up a Quran from Alia's house, or I pick up a Quran from Arham's house. Let's compare it together. Put it side by side. Either I open my Quran from my house and another friend all the way from Turkey, Pakistan, South Africa opens the Quran. Guess what? It's exactly the same. And not just in the book, from hearts to hearts, the way people have memorized this Quran. it is memorized the same. So this is what's something really special and cool about the Quran that has never ever happened before. That wherever you find the Quran, it is preserved in the same way as it was in the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? Because Allah took it upon himself that he is going to protect this Quran from being changed, from being mistreated. Allah took it upon himself. And that is why today, for 1400 years ago later, the Quran is exactly the same. Okay, so that is what's so special about this Quran. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, open this book with this mind completely clear that there's no doubt in it. And before that, it's very important to understand that what kind of doubt does raiba means. And again, we go deeper into the meaning of the word raib. And we find that the word raib comes from the root letters ra, ya, and ba. And raib in Arabic means that a doubt that comes to our heart and stays and emerges from time to time. So it's a heart, it's a doubt that doesn't go away. It keeps coming back. It keeps creeping back. Like for some time you kind of forget about it. Okay, no, I don't want to, be in any doubt. But it keeps at the back of your mind. You keep thinking about it, and it distracts you from believing. That's the kind of doubt raib means. So that is why the word Allah picked for the kind of doubt that he wanted to use for this verse was raib. This kind of doubt that it keeps creeping back into our minds and in our hearts every time we are opening the Quran. So Allah does not want us to have any kind of doubt about this book. And it's very interesting to know that in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses two different words for doubt in two different parts of the Quran. So remember when I told you we look into the root letters of the word and why that special word is placed in that specific verse is because the whole meaning revolves around the entire situation that is happening. So if, for example, in English we say the clouds are coming, all right? Now it doesn't tell us what kind of cloud. Is it a rain cloud? Is it a snow cloud? It is a thunder cloud? It's just a cloud. And that's how English is. We just say the word cloud is coming, clouds are coming, and that's the description. But in Arabic, every kind of cloud, whether it's a rain cloud, it's a snow cloud, it's a just a regular white cloud, every every cloud has a special name. No cloud is said as cloud as the same word. Every kind of cloud has a special name. And that is why Arabic language is so cool. It's so it's so vast. It's so special. And that is why Quran came down in this language, because there's no other language like the Arabic language where every single word is has an entire backstory to it. So the word doubt that is used in the Quran is two kind of doubts. We find in the Quran the word raib for a doubt that we just read. Also in the Quran, we find this word shak for a doubt. Now, what's the difference between both of the doubts? In English, we say both of them means doubt. But in Arabic, There's a difference in both the kind of doubts. Raib is, again, like I told you, the kind of doubt that comes to our heart and stays there. It doesn't go away. It keeps coming back from time to time. But shak is a kind of doubt that comes, and then once the thing is cleared up, the confusion is cleared up completely, it goes away. It doesn't come back. Do you understand the difference between both the words? Everybody
Yeah.
understands? So that is the difference. That is why Allah used the word raib. Why did Allah use the word la raiba fi? That every time you open the Quran, the shaitan attacks us to find doubts in it, to find confusions in it for us. That this doesn't make sense, or you really don't want to believe this, or I'm not sure about this thing. 1400 years ago, maybe this was applicable. Today, not so much. We're brand new generation today. We're Generation X. We don't believe in just these kind of things. So Shaitan every time comes up with a new kind of confusion to create for us in the Quran right before we are about to open it. So that is why Allah keeps reminding. The first thing Allah tells us about this book is La Raiba Fi. Don't keep having those recurring doubts about this Quran. Keep those doubts out of yourself because there's no doubts in it. This is Allah's promise. And what is this book? What is it about? Hudal lil muttaqin. It's a book of guidance. Simple answer about the Quran. What is Quran? A book of guidance. It's a book of instructions. For example, Arham got a bookcase to build from IKEA. All right, Arham, you got a bookcase to build from IKEA. Now you got everything shipped to your house. Okay. Then what happens? It comes with a manual book. True, Arham?
Yes.
It comes with a book of manual. That's your instruction. That's your guidance to follow step by step, right? If you follow that book of instructions step by step, would you be able to build a bookshelf?
Yes.
Yes, right? So the same way, man is, us humans come with an instruction, with a book of instruction, with guidance. Every body part that we have has a purpose, has a meaning. And if we use that instruction book, our manual, to follow it step by step, then we will live a longer, healthier life, a better life. And that book of instruction is what? For us, man, the Quran. Now another example. If, for example, for example, Aya received the manual for the bookshelf from IKEA. You got all the parts. Okay? You got all the parts. And you got the manual, the instruction book with it as well. All right, Aya? Are you following this?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got the instruction book. You got you got all the equipment for it as well. But the instruction book is in French. It's not in English. It's in French. And you do not know how to read French. What are you going to do?
Well, I might just leave it alone, or I might use Google Translate.
Good. You're either going to use a Google Translator, or in today's world, we're going to YouTube everything. True? We
Or you
find
could
our
just-
answers on YouTube.
Yeah, or you could talk to someone who's a French person, just give them the book.
Exactly.
Or find an image.
Knowledgeable person who actually knows how to speak French, so that person can translate it for us. Right? So these are our options. We look for somebody who knows more about it, who can translate it in the way that we can understand it. So when we understand it, it is easier for us to follow the instructions. Good? Are we following it till here?
Yeah.
The same way man was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave an instruction manual for us. And that is the Quran. But Quran is not our language. It wasn't even the language, the Quranic Arabic wasn't even the language of the people that it came down upon, the Arabs. Their spoken Arabic was very different from the Quranic Arabic. So for them too, Quran was not something that they could understand very easily, because again, it was not their exact language.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did Adam, the Prophet Adam, alayhi wasalam, did he speak Arabic or did he speak a different language?
I am not sure about what language he spoke, but what I know from a narration or a hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that the language of Allah and the angels and the people of Jannah is going to be Arabic.
Okay.
So if we
Thank
look
you.
at that, maybe he spoke Arabic, because when he was directly conversating with the angels and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the whole story about how he was born and everything, maybe he was speaking in Arabic. But again, I'm not sure. But according to the hadith, we know that the language of Allah is Arabic. That's the language that the people are going to be speaking on the day of judgment. They're going to be conversating, so all of a sudden everybody would know this language. Even if we don't know this language in this world, we will be speaking in this language on the day of judgment, and the people of Jannah will be speaking in this. So this language is very, very special to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is why he picked this language for the Quran to be revealed. And we find that if we find the Old Testaments of Bible, we find that it was classical. The classical Hebrew language is very, very similar to the Arabic language. A lot of their words are very, very similar as well. So Hebrew, Arabic, they're like very closed together languages. All right. So, all right. So coming back to this. So we were talking about that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this man, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a book of guidance. All right. Just like we talked about the IKEA furniture, it came. The furniture came, the instruction manual came. But the language that was written in the instruction manual was French. We cannot understand it. The same way Quran came in a language that we did not understand. We do not understand. It's not our language. What are we supposed to do? What are we going to do? We are going to, like Aya said, we were going to ask somebody who knows more about that language, so that person can translate to us, or we can look upon a person or a website who knows more about this language so we can understand the instructions better. So it's easier for us to follow it step by step. So the same way, when the Quran is not in our language, we look upon the somebody who knows better about this language, who can translate it better for us. Who do you think can translate this language better for us?
The Quran?
Mm-hmm.
Arabic people who
Speak Arabic.
like scholars,
The
maybe?
scholars. Good. Even before the scholars, where did the scholars learn it from?
Imams?
Imams. Who did the imams learn it from?
Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam?
Exactly. So we are going to directly look into the person who the Quran came down upon, because he would be the best to explain the Quran to us. And that is why when we read the Quran, the best way to understand the Quran is to understand the teachings of Prophet Muhammad side by side. How he understood the Quran, how he followed the instructions, how he performed certain actions. So when he performs certain action, we know exactly how this particular verse in the Quran needs to be followed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that is why Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's narrations and hadith are very, very important side by side with the Quran. And that is why whenever we talk about the Quran, I mention a lot of hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he is the perfect example of how we can understand the language of the Quran. All right. So if you have any questions up till here, I would love to answer them. If not, we're going to keep it till here, inshallah, for today. And then, inshallah, for next time, we have something that I would like to begin with. I will just show you the picture and we will talk about this, inshallah, the next time. Any questions?
Thank you. Bye.
All right. You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a wonderful
Allah Hafiz.
Assalamu alaikum.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah
Allah
Hafiz.
Hafiz. What's up? What's up? No!